Good morning, all, and welcome to the last cabinet meeting of this year, this financial year. And so, Merry Christmas to everybody in the room. Let's start with apologies for absence, please.
No apologies to report, Leader. Everybody's present today.
Thank you very much. Item 2 is minutes of the last meeting. Are we happy? I'm proposing to move them a seconder.
Seconded.
And are we agreed? Or any operations? Yeah. Okay. Get them signed in a second. Item number 3, declarations of interest. Councillor Placey.
Yeah, I have a declaration item 12. I'm a trustee on tendering community transport, which is a disclosable pecuniary interest, so I'll leave the room for that item.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Bray.
Thanks, Leader. Yes, declaring interest item 14, 15 and 17 in as a tenant of Tenure District Council. I don't think it's appropriate for me to stay for those, so I'll leave you with those ones. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Bray. Anybody else? Excellent. Okay, agenda item number 4 is announcements by the Leader. And in the interest of not having this crop up in various different parts of the agenda, I think I'd like to address local government reorganisation that's going on at the moment. And when I say I'd like to readdress it, Mr. Davidson and I have been in various meetings, but he has been in some online meetings as well. And I think it's only better to make sure it's accurate that I'll pass over to Mr. Davidson and I don't get anything wrong. It's his fault if it is. Mr. Davidson.
Thank you, and I quite agree. We don't, never have a blame culture here. Just to on a serious note, just to talk about LGR. So LGR, local government reorganisation and devolution. So just to clarify the difference, devolution is where the proposal is to have a mayor for Essex and a combined authority, which would be, that does not to take away the sovereignty of this or any authority. The authority remains. So on January the 10th, the government has requested those authorities who want to be in the vanguard for making proposals for a elected mayor and a combined authority to make those, to put forward those proposals. Now I think the will across both in terms of the county council, although they will have their process of governance to go through to confirm that, and the two unitaries, Southend and Thurrock, are the ones who put forward to government as to whether they want to propose a mayor and a combined authority. We do not, as district councils, have a say in that. We are being asked to be included and within the conversation, but we are not a decision maker in that. So we will not be asked to say whether we approve it or not. The other part of it is local government reorganisation, which the Leader just referred to. Now the local government reorganisation would be that all 15 local authorities across Essex no longer exist, and then they will be replaced by a number of unitaries to be determined. Now whether that be 2, 3, 4, 5 or any other combination thereof. The role of the unitary authority would then take on both the county's functions and the district council's functions. So you would have a council there. So if LGR, so, and again on January the 10th, the Minister has requested that that those proposals come forward to say that we are also interested in local government reorganisation. And again, that is something which is being looked at and proposed at the moment. And there's again, the county is going through governance, as is Southend, as is Thurrock. At the moment, that's what the proposal on January the 10th is merely an expression of interest to open that negotiation and that discussion. There is a piece of work which has been done across Essex to look at the financial aspects around it, to look at the scale of what number of authorities there should be, and also to look at how that would work with the combined authority as well, because you'd have a different type of two tiers effectively. You'd have a mayoralty, combined authority, and you'd have a unitary. So That means that we do need to consider timing, because if it goes forward as in confirmed, and at the moment the government is very clear that it is keen on the unitarisation of all counties, district areas. So therefore, the likelihood of that going forward, we've got to take as a realistic likelihood, and therefore we need to look at the work which we're doing. So as I said at scrutiny on Tuesday evening, there are projects coming forward, both in this and actually in work which is ongoing. And as part of that those projects going forward, if we have a window by which we're going to still be in existence, then what we need to do is to prioritise our priorities. So I will be talking to the Cabinet and then to members about those priorities, because we'll be saying, if we have this number of projects, we will not be able to probably deliver those in the envelope, in the window in which we have left in existence. There will be things which we have received funding for and therefore have obligations to deliver, Levelling Up one and the CRP being one example. There's also work which is ongoing in some key things which are protecting our district. And I give you sort of things like the coastal protection, and actually we can't leave some of that for 2 years, because if we leave it for 2 or 3 years, the place where it is now won't be there. So we do need to do some work around that as well. So those sorts of projects are the must-dos, and then there'll be the, well, here's a list now, which ones of those do we do? They will then translate into a new authority, and then obviously that's for a new authority to prioritise and say what's important for them. I'm not going to, in public here, sit and speculate what new unitary we would be a part of, because there's far too much work to go on and too much discussion to go on in terms of that. But suffice to say is that I think it's important that the leaders across Essex who have been meeting specifically on this subject, the chief executives across Essex are also looking at that, and we have had, as the leader alluded, a number of meetings with ministers and with Baroness Taylor, who's in the Lords, is the spokesperson for local government in the Lords, and also senior civil servants, about the work that will be entailed, about what we need to do. So I just wanted to sort of put that in the context of what we're doing at the moment, in the context of any decisions you make, or today as Cabinet, because, for example, the priorities and the projects, whilst they'll be important, you may need to be subsequently doing a piece of work to prioritise your priorities, and also the capacity to undertake the demise of tendering and the unitarisation cannot be underestimated. You are looking at the harmonisation of taxation, the disaggregation or the harmonisation of assets, in terms of the disaggregation and the harmonisation in terms of some of our key contracts and the commitments therein. And that will mean that my senior officers will be, time will be taken in that harmonisation work. So again, it is a few key officers in an organisation of our scale who are seeing through both projects and also that work. And needless to say, the 6 into 1 doesn't go. So it's about how we manage that as well. And that is why also, as part of the January the 10th, I requested that the government, which alluded to it, give support to organisations in terms of being able to deliver unitarisation if it is going forward. Happy to, if you want to have any questions, I'm happy to say.
Does anybody have any questions? We're all right then. Okay, other announcements? I don't know, you might be able to hear it. I'm not sure if you're picking it up on a microphone, but we have our panto going on at the moment. We've got numerous amounts of school children that have been bus loads coming in all the last few weeks, and I'm going to say that this year our panto is probably going to be the best in Essex. there was a scripted, oh no, it's not supposed to come there, and I was going to say, oh yes, it is, but clearly that didn't happen. So, but you know, I think we had a gala night, and there was plenty of councillors that attended it, and I've never seen a panto like it in my life. So, and I've been to about 19, I reckon, in my lifetime. So, anybody who hasn't seen it, definitely go and get it. There is an adult version on the December the 28th, and there's about 14 seats left on that one, and we've got a 700 capacity theatre. So, as you can see, it's definitely well approved. So, that's the panto, LGR. That's all my announcements. Announcements by cabinet members, and I think I'm going to go to Councillor Baker first.
Thank you, Chairman. I have, Leader, as well. I have two announcements to make. Firstly, I'm delighted to announce that the Spendles project has been completed. Certificate of completion being issued on Tuesday the 3rd of December, and by Friday of the same week, 8 families have been moved in. As of this morning, over 12 families are now in residence, which is a testament to the dedication of our housing staff in dealing quickly with those families' needs. While this project has been delayed and had other issues, which I'm not prepared to comment further on today, it still remains a very worthwhile one. It will provide temporary accommodation for up to 30 families with children, a better place for them to be accommodated than a hotel room, thereby reducing the impact on both the children's education and the family's overall health. At this site, there are 2 members of staff available during the week to assist those residing there and moving on from this council-owned temporary accommodation, either into the private rented sector or, where available, our own housing stock. Having visited the site on more than one occasion, I've seen the project progress from a building site into a modern, usable site. The design has been one with future residents in mind, and the flat adapted for those unfortunately physically disabled is quite large and has features that I've not seen before, including a movable sink and cooker that go up and down to make access that much easier for those in it. Also, I should mention how grateful I am to officers for arranging a site visit on Monday the 18th of November for the local residents and the ward councillor, Councillor Oxley, to show them the rooms and facilities and to put to bed the rumours as to who would be occupying the site. And secondly, Leader, this council will be undertaking a tenancy audit of its housing stock. These checks, performed regularly by a dedicated fraud team, aim to identify properties that have been abandoned, sublet or falsely claimed. And the checks are also carried out to ensure that tenants are in receipt of the correct discount or benefit, for example, single person discount, local government support grant or housing benefit where applicable. In recent years, more than 60 properties were reclaimed from individuals who falsely claimed entitlement, and these homes were then reassigned to families on the waiting list who genuinely needed them. In one instance, one case involved a tenant who had not lived in his property for over 2 years, was found to be living elsewhere and using the council property for storage and to access benefits fraudulently. As a result of that investigation, legal action was taken, the property was taken back by the council and provided to a family in need. And tenancy reviews are important for protecting taxpayers and legitimate council tenants. We are proud of our area and the services we provide to our thousands of council tenants, most of whom are model residents, legitimately housed by us. Unfortunately, there are a small minority who try to exploit the system, depriving families in need of a home and costing this council and taxpayers having to provide temporary accommodation. If you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear, but we do not tolerate fraud. If someone is acting illegally, we will find out and take action. And while we also want to ensure homes have not been abandoned, something which could be depriving local people of a much needed home. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Baker. Was that both your announcements, Councillor Baker? Yep. And Councillor Barry.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Can I just thank everyone who took part in the Free Family Fun Day last Saturday to celebrate the 40th birthday of our Dovercourt Bay Lifestyle Centre. It's a well-used and well-loved facility, and I'd like to commend our staff, both present and past, for all their hard work and dedication in making this centre a vital part of the Harwich and Dovercourt community. Thank you.
Thank you to the portfolios. Is there any comments by anyone? Okay. In that case, I'll move us on to agenda item number 6, matters referred to the Cabinet by the Council. I believe there are none, which takes us to number 7. And this is matter referred to Cabinet by Committee, referencing the Community Leadership Overview and Scrutiny Committee, scrutiny of the sports and activity strategy for tendering. And I think you're going to lead on this, Councillor Barry.
Yes, again, thank you, Leader. I'd like to say I welcome this report and the opportunity that I was given to discuss the sport and activity strategy at the Scrutiny Committee on the 15th of October. Just a quick correction to the actual report in the Cabinet papers. It says that the strategy was approved by Cabinet on the 20th of October. It was actually the 20th of September, which is the first bullet point on page 35. So effectively, this strategy has been live for 3 months. And I'd just like to give some updates on its impact, some related developments and inspirations for strategy and for our residents across the district. I've always said that this strategy was an organic working document that would have an overall approach to engaging with residents around sport, activity, health and well-being. It is also a statement of intent to outside bodies and national organisations, and it has already been used to successfully influence bids for funding. If I can just give news from Active Essex management only this week, we had an email on Monday which just said, "I'm delighted to share exciting news that Sport England have approved our deepening funding submission to extend our successful local delivery pilot work, which has been retitled Place Partnerships, for another 3 years. And the total amount of funding approved is approximately £5 million. The grant allocates approximately £1 million to each place, which is Basildon, Colchester and Tendring, as well as £2 million to fund Active Essex to support the work and undertake further system change across the county. This funding will commence in April 25 and be completed in March 2028. So this will fund work with Active Essex to deliver elements of the strategy's action plan across the district. We've also submitted a bid for £1.3 million to replace old oil boilers at Clacton Leisure Centre and take further action there in line with our climate action plan. There is a proposal for a free-to-use cycle zone and a number of play zones across the district. These are well advanced, with results expected by the end of March 2025. Officers who have also had discussions with English Athletics, British Cycling and Sport England have been very complimentary about the strategy and its influence with national organisations. There's no doubt in my mind that the strategy has played a key role in convincing funders that we have ambition and capacity to deliver our action plan. Looking ahead, there will be a district sports and activity conference in May 25, which will bring together all bodies, groups and organisations in one place to share good practice and take forward the strategy through an events programme over the summer months. On a wider scale, the feasibility work with consultants and partners regarding an active wellbeing centre for the district is also progressing positively. And only yesterday, I visited the sports centre and hub at Mildenhall with officers in terms of fact-finding around that particular venture. I think overall, we've shown our strategy has laid really solid foundations for improving opportunity for residents of all ages to engage in healthier lifestyles and improve their quality of life. I welcome the endorsement of the Scrutiny Committee and thank them for their positive comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barry. I'm assuming you're moving that. Have you got a second? Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, I'll be gladly to support this, second this. Following the scrutiny meeting, it's heartening to hear that positive comments from external organisations about the sport and activity strategy and how aligned the objectives are with our regional and national partners at Active Essex and Sports England. We have a real opportunity to make a positive contribution to the active well-being of local people through delivering this strategy and supporting residents to increase their activity levels. The positive comments from Councillor Barry and the committee's recommendations follow on from the positive approach the councils took in listening to local residents and organisations throughout the consultation period in finding this positive plan for the district. I'm very happy to second this item, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Okay, but it's been moved by Councillor Barry, seconded by Councillor Scott. Are any questions? Councillor Honeywood.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, looking through this, I just made a note that the actual strategy is very reliant on future funding from other resources rather than TDC. Would you agree with that?
Well, it's reliant upon working with partnerships, and as I've just said, that the working with Active Essex, we have secured funding through the local delivery pilot, and there is £1 million coming to tendering in 2025, and the strategy will be key in how that funding is allocated and used. Yeah, we have allocated from our own resources £125,000 to implement some of the measures in the first year, and we're also committed to providing a post, a sport and activity manager, who will be responsible for taking forward the action plan. So that's coming out of tendering resources. But you're right, there is a need to secure outside bodies funding from outside bodies. But all I can say is that the evidence at the scrutiny committee that was put to that committee, there were a number of high-level representatives from the various organisations, and I think I can say with some confidence that the strategy has been really well received and endorsed by those funding bodies. And if there is available resources, I think we're going to be in a very strong position to make successful bids.
I think, thank you. I think I'd also like to come in here. I mean, your years on the cabinet, it's not just about us delivering. We're also an influencer, and we're also a facilitator. And I think that's kind of what that strategy, it goes into a lot of detail around how we can get others to help us deliver what we want for the residents, rather than TDC taking on the whole mantle of doing absolutely everything for everyone. Have you got any other questions, Councillor Honeywood? No? Okay. So, moved by Councillor Barry, seconded by Councillor Scott. Are we in agreement? Thank you very much. That was agenda item 7. So, agenda item 8. So this is matters referred to Cabinet by a committee, reference from Standards Committee, proposed amendment to Article 9 of the Council's Constitution. Okay, and I am leading on this one, I believe. So this is, apologies while I find it. Thank you. So the Standards Committee met on the 24th of October, and this was discussing the membership of, apologies, TDC. Yeah, actually, do you know what? Probably be easier if thanks, Councillor Lisa.
Thank you, Leader. This report is before you at Cabinet following the recommendation from the Standards Committee that when this council seeks representatives from TDALC, that those representatives put forward to sit on our Standards Subcommittee for Town and Parish Council Matters are representatives across the district, as in this instance we were provided with 2 from one parish area, and that was considered that we should be asking for a more representative approach across the district. So because this Cabinet has to consider amendments to the council's constitution. That's why you've got this report. So it's a recommendation from the Standards Committee via yourselves onto full council.
Thank you, Ms Hastings. And kind of caught up a bit now, so the amendment actually is on page 43 in red for those of you who've got the agendas, and the recommendation is page 41. But before I go into it any further, I need a seconder. Have I got a seconder?
Quite happy to
Councillor Baker.
second, Leader.
Okay, I have a seconder. Any questions, Councillor Bray?
Thanks, Leader. Can't see anything wrong with this. It's brilliant. I'm just wondering if there was a reason, given we've got 27 town and parish councils, it should be relatively easy to find 4 people, I would have thought. We've said that we would prefer it to be. Could we not be stronger? Is there something that stops us saying that we would insist upon it?
Ms Hastings?
That was a matter that was debated at the Standards Committee as to whether we should be being stronger with our request. However, it was felt that TDALC is the body that represents the town and parish councils in the area, and we should, you know, be putting forward our suggestion that we think it's more representative, but ultimately we didn't feel we could force a body to do that, but it was discussed at length actually within the committee.
Thank you. Brilliant. Superb. Happy with that. Thank you.
Okay. No other questions? Okay, it's been moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Baker. Have I got a concurrence? Thank you. Okay. Agenda item number 9 is the leader of the council's items, and this is delivering against the council's corporate plan for 24-28, initial proposals for highlight priorities for 25-26. So, as it just says, this is the corporate plan that we had that we set out in November that covers the period of 24 to 28. We deliver the corporate plan through the highlight priority actions, and the 25-26 initial proposals are the highlight priorities that are set out in the appendix in the report. I think Cabinet are adopting these priorities for consultation before finalising them after reviewing the consultation. So these are a draft version, and we're welcoming any submissions into what people think of our proposed plans ahead. These priorities demonstrate the ambition of the Cabinet and the Council with a wide range of work that was planned to undertake for the benefit of residents. This includes delivering savings, climate change, sport strategy, our waste contract, homelessness, and a whole myriad of other things. They cover the importance of financial sustainability, developing our core services, and delivering our projects. I think things change all the time. And I think one of the things I'll just say, as set out by Mr Davidson earlier, that this work will need to be reviewed in the new year in light of any proposals from the local government reorganisation. That's all I'm going to say on it for the moment. I need a seconder, please. Councillor Henderson.
Thank you, Leader, and pleased to second this. And as you've just mentioned, of course, this will be out for consultation and feedback from residents, as we always do. And I think that's an important point to make when you look on page 55 when it says delivering our vision, and community leadership runs through the priorities, listening and delivering for our residents and businesses. And if you take examples over the last year or two of how that has worked, when I look at some of the projects in my own portfolio, when we're talking about the Capital Regeneration Project in Harwich and Dovercourt, the consultation, the wide consultation that's took place there, and the listening to residents and making changes and movement and amending some of those projects to the areas that residents want. And then you look at the Levelling Up Fund here just across the road, the amount of consultation that's gone on with residents, the listening with the working party, members working parties, with councillors, the feedback we've got, we've made changes and reshaped some of that project after listening to those residents. And then you look at the, which I'm going to be speaking about later, the Community Regeneration Partnership. That was developed, those projects were developed with stakeholders' input. So listening again has been one of the big key issues for this council to make sure that we deliver on what the residents want. And again, if you listen to what's just been said, the sports strategy, I know Councillor Mick Barry did road shows listening to what that some of those groups and organisations wanted for the future, and he developed that strategy after listening to those people. And as for business, you can see it again. We have tendering for growth on a yearly basis. There can't be much more contact we have, not just once a year, but with the team, the regeneration team, the workshops that they take place for skills workshops and audits with business to see what their views are and their needs are, and we adopt our policies and our work around them. So I think one of the things we can say about this council is we are a listening council and we do work closely with our residents. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. Do I have any questions? Councillor Honeywood.
Thank you. I have a few, but I'll keep them brief because I think firstly, this, particularly the saving strategy and strategy in general, comes to scrutiny committee, I think, in January. So I think that's the main point to ask questions. But I did have a couple of points that I wanted to raise. The first one, page 57, was the housing strategy, in which we develop a housing strategy. I must admit, from I think around May, if I remember correctly, it was said that this housing strategy would be formulated this year, and that doesn't seem to be the case. So I just wondered what caused the delays on that.
Councillor Baker.
If I may, Leader, the housing strategy or the revision of it is coming forward. Obviously, as I've mentioned on many occasions, we are now within the realm of the regulator of social housing, so that has taken a bit more of a priority with regard to getting some policies in place, which I'll mention later on. Last night, myself and Mr. Clark met with the Task and Finish group that is set up from your Overview and Scrutiny Committee that you chair, and we discussed. That was part of that discussion as well. Obviously, when a revised housing strategy comes forward, it will have to go out to consultation, and I would encourage everybody members, public, your committee, to give it a good scrutiny. I'm hopeful that will be in the last quarter of this financial year, so January to March, hopeful, with potential for it to come forward for possible adoption by the end of Q1 of 25-26. But please don't hold me to that, because we just don't know what might happen. But that's the ambition to do it, and I would have hoped it would have come forward earlier, but as I said, there were other issues that need to be dealt with a bit more urgently.
Councillor Honeywood.
Okay. Yes, thanks very much for that. The next part was on page 59, which is the complete service review of open spaces. Could you, forgive me for asking, open spaces, are we talking about, example, like the sites we've retained from our review before?
This is something that I personally asked for. This was a complete, and I'm sorry for taking it off Councillor Barry, but Councillor Barry and I wanted to do a complete overhaul of open spaces. It seems that we're doing a lot of work for a lot of other people, and we need to understand what we're doing and what we're doing. So that's what that strategy is, that overview piece of work is.
Okay, because obviously my concern was the decision was made to deal with one or two sites, but the majority were, if you like, put on the shelf, which has cost them £64,500 a year to the taxpayer. I think it's something that should have been dealt with a little bit quicker. My views?
Indeed, and one of the reasons why we're having the review is to understand exactly the whole position rather than just one or two sites with everything being put on the shelf. Other than that,
Okay, thanks very much for that. Sorry. My next one was on page 62, the Development, Health and Wellbeing Strategy. I remember that Councillor McWilliams did a considerable amount of work during her time in that role, and I think she received quite a bit of support or positive comments from across the council. I was just wondering how much progress has been made since then?
Councillor Placey.
We're nearly there. You'd be going to know. The aim is that we'll get it to, I can't remember, Cabinet Council, January, maybe February. But there's been a lot of work, a lot of changes in that time, but yeah, we're nearly there.
Okay, thanks very much for that. That's it for me.
Thank you, Councillor Honeywood. Any other questions? Mr. Davidson wants to come in.
I wasn't going to say anything, but raising health and wellbeing, as I'm the Vice Chair of the County's Health and Wellbeing Board, and the work that's gone on. And I just want to recognise what Councillor Honeywood said about the work which has gone on by this council in the previous administration. This administration, not being political, I'm saying about the importance of what's gone on, and seeing things like our health index, which was unique, we have improved our health index by 4.7%, and I know Councillor McWilliams is proud of that, and I know Councillor Place is proud of that in terms of the work we've done, including the improvement of the suicide rate, has come as a result of a myriad of work. The strategy will be bringing that together, because we actually didn't have a strategy, so the strategy will be bringing that together, but that myriad of work continues and making a difference to residents' lives and to the health and well-being, because we still have some significant challenges.
Thank you, Mr. Davidson. A few extra words on this. I mean, one of the things I loved about this was it's about the delivery, and there's lots of things on here that are now talking about being delivered for next year coming. And I think that's an attitude that the council has had for a long time, and it's why our partnership stuff works so well, is that people do have confidence and faith in us to deliver. And that's a rare quality in councils sometimes. Other councils talk about it, but we're actually sitting here making sure things are getting done. And, it was only, we're coming up for, in a few months' time, 2 years of this administration. I was adding up the sheer amount that we have done in the first 2 years, and it'll be interesting, I think I'll save it for my leader's speech to go through that. But there was a huge amount of work, and I think our priorities list reflects that continued push and pressure to deliver for the residents. I think that's one of the greatest things about this thing. So I have moved it. It's been seconded by Councillor Henderson. There's no other comments. I'm getting agreement on this, please. All right, we'll send that out to consultation. Right, agenda item number 10. This is another one of my items. This is the adoption of an artificial intelligence best practice approach at Tennant District Council. And from this, I'm going to read something. Today, I'm pleased to present the artificial intelligence, or AI, best practice approach, a significant milestone for Tennant District Council. This comprehensive document guides us in the responsible and effective use of artificial intelligence technologies, addressing crucial aspects such as data governance, transparency, accountability, and bias mitigation. This approach does not commit us to a specific use of AI, but sets out the ethical parameters within which AI should be used as we continue to innovate. As this technology continues, I am sure we as an authority will be exploring its potential, innovating using AI to ensure we maintain efficiency for our taxpayers and residents. Perhaps the most important thing to stress and draw out from our approach is that human oversight remains a key element to ensure accuracy and ethical standards. This approach has developed through consultation with various council departments and drawing upon best practices from the Information Commissioner's Office and the UK Government Civil Service. This collaborative effort ensures that our approach is robust and reflective of our commitment to ethical AI use, and that it continues to do so as this field will rapidly evolve. Adopting this framework aligns with our communication strategy for 24 to 28 and completes both on an action point within the strategy and a milestone in our highlight priority actions for 24-25. By adopting this ethical AI approach, we are taking a bold step towards enhancing our service responsibly and transparently. I am confident that this framework will benefit our residents and maintain their trust in our use of AI. Before I move this, I will preempt a question. Yes, this introduction was drafted using AI, but crucially involved human oversight before reaching the final version. So I'm happy to move it. I need a seconder. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Leader. As Digital Champion, I would like to second this adoption of AI best practice approach for TDC and look forward to seeing the evolution and use of artificial intelligence in the future. I also did something on AI, and if it's okay to read it out, I haven't altered it, so it does prove that it does need human intervention, but if it's okay. So it just says, here's a brief speech you can use to second the adoption of an artificial intelligence AI best practice approach for tendering district council. It starts, ladies and gentlemen, which clearly that would have been altered. I rise today, which I'm seated. And then it also has a few Z's in where it should be S's, but it pretty much says, I wholeheartedly second the adoption of an artificial intelligence best practice approach for tendering district council. In our rapidly advancing digital age, the integration of AI into our council's operations is not just a possibility, but a necessity. Allow me to briefly outline the compelling reasons why this policy is crucial for our future. Firstly, efficiency and innovation. Implementing AI best practices will significantly enhance our operational efficiency. By automating routine tasks, we can free up valuable time and resources, allowing our staff to focus on more complex and creative endeavours. This not only streamlines our processes, but also fosters a culture of innovation within the council. Secondly, data-driven decision-making. AI provides us with powerful tools to analyse vast amounts of data and extract actionable insights. This enables us to make more informed decisions backed by concrete evidence, whether it's optimising service delivery, planning urban development, or addressing community needs. AI-driven insights will empower us to serve our constituents more effectively. Lastly, transparency and accountability. Adopting AI best practices ensures that we implement these technologies responsibly and ethically. Clear guidelines on data privacy, algorithmic fairness, and accountability will build trust within our community. By setting high standards for transparency, we demonstrate our commitment to using AI for the greater good. In conclusion, embracing an AI best practice approach is not just about keeping pace with technological advancements. It's about leveraging these tools to create a more efficient, informed, and transparent council. Let us take this bold step forward, ensuring that Tendring District Council remains at the forefront of innovation and service excellence. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smith, and your wingman AI. Been moved and seconded. I'll go to questions or comments. Councillor Bray.
Thanks, Leader. I found that quite amusing, actually, Councillor Smith. This is 21st century self-promotion by artificial intelligence. Superb. Well read and brilliant. I think it's excellent that we have this in place. A lot of people are quite worried about AI, and I think we need to be really clear that we're watching it very carefully and that we have the right tools in place to ensure that it is used in the correct and proper way at all times. So I absolutely applaud this, and I love the self-promotion. Superb. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, it's been moved by myself, Seconded by Councillor Smith. Can I have an agreement on that, please? Thank you. Okay, number 11, and this is a cabinet item report. The corporate finance and governance portfolio holder, me. And this is an update of the general fund financial forecast budget for 25-26. And as is tradition, I shall read out my thoughts. As set out in the report, we have effectively frozen the forecast, which in turn translates the position for 25-26 into the detailed budget that we will now focus on over the next few weeks, before making our final proposals to full council in February. This period also enables us to consult with the Resource and Services Overview and Scrutiny Committee with their associated meeting planned for mid-January. Before I mention the local government finance settlement, which was announced on Wednesday, I'd like to highlight a few changes since we last considered the forecast back in November. Cost pressures have increased, which puts us into perspective again the financial challenges we face. However, we continue to make a managed approach with good financial housekeeping at this foundation, which is acknowledged within the recent value for money commentary provided by our auditors. We have all the right elements of good financial management in place, including good awareness of the financial challenges what we face. Excuse me. This approach is invaluable in managing our way through our next few years. One of the biggest challenges remains homelessness, with a significant increase in the budget proposed to help us meet the associated costs. This would be even higher if we had not successfully completed the Spendles House scheme earlier in the year. We've been able to offset the various cost pressures in 25-26 through the timing of when we can build the items set out within our savings plan into the budget. As set out in the appendices, we have identified a number of savings to date, but we will need to continue this momentum heading into 25-26, as based on the current forecast, requirements to make savings does not go away anytime soon. Our budget proposals now also include the estimated council tax property base, which has increased due to a number of factors, not least the hard work of our revenue and compliance teams. The council tax premium on second homes that we agreed at full council a few weeks ago is now reflected in the forecast, although the impact of this premium will only become clear during the year. The budget currently includes in excess of £100,000 of potential additional income. Now turning to the provisional local government finance that was announced on Wednesday, we have built into the budget an estimated level of government funding of just over 2.2 million in 25-26. Although we are still working through the various documents that accompany those provisional statements, we are expecting to receive around 2.5 million, which is positive news. We still have to wait to see what we will get in terms of the government's commitment to reimburse councils for the cost of recently announced national insurance increases. We understand that this will form part of the final settlement announcement early in the new year. The finance team continue to digest the settlement in more detail and will include the updated position in the revised budget figures that will be presented in Cabinet in January. However, based on the settlement figures announced, the deficit of 25-26 is likely to decrease from 1.5 million set out in the report we have in front of us to near 1.2 to 1.3. There will obviously be other required changes to the budget over the next few weeks, but this remains positive news. The other big news emerging this week is the government's white paper on local government, which was published on Monday, and I hope members found that the update given by Ian until the all members briefing on Wednesday evening helpful. As I've said, I won't go into it in any detail today, but I'll ensure that timely updates will continue to be provided to members as this significant issue develops over the coming weeks and months. As always, I look forward to the comments on the Resource and Services Overview and Scrutiny Committee as part of our developing our final budget proposals for 25-26 that we will consider towards the end of January. And that's my comments on that report. So I need a seconder. Councillor Cox.
Thank you, Leader. I'm happy to second this update for the General Fund financial forecast and support the recommendations outlined in the report. I'd also like to thank our finance officers for their tireless work in bringing forward good comprehensive information which enables us to understand the state of our finances. It's good to see that our overall position shows a decrease in the forecasted overall deficit from 2.476 million down to just over £1.5 million, which I understand that position has changed since the local government's settlement has been announced, and that has gone down even further, I understand, so which is even better news. It's also good to see that the council has identified savings recognises its cost pressures and how they impact upon the budget when this Cabinet comes to decisions relating not just to setting our budget for the next financial year, but also for the longer term. We have some exciting projects coming forward over the coming months and years, and it is welcoming to see that Tendring District Council is in a good financial position to deliver them. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Gotts. So it's been moved and seconded. Have I got any questions? Councillor Honeywood.
Thank you, Leader. One of the things you touched on was the pressures of homelessness and our need to, or our requirements or duty to meet the needs of people that find themselves needing our help from homelessness. One of the concerns I've had in the past, and you'll be aware of this, is where councils place residents in areas far from their homes or where they're from, away from services, support services, medical or family or social services, which causes isolation and distress, or at least it can do. And I disagree with that wholeheartedly, as you know. My concern is, what action are we taking to discourage other councils from placing their residents in our area? Now, bearing in mind, in the first 6 months of this year, Colchester Council had a total of 72 placements into the tendering area. Now, under the previous administration, we took action to deter, for example, London boroughs from doing this, and also other councils. Can I ask the views of this administration on that, and what action they're taking to deter this practice?
Councillor Baker.
Can you just give me some seconds? I'll just scribble something down, otherwise I'll forget. So your first comment, Councillor Honeywood, was about placing people outside of the district. We do have somewhere where we do place people outside of the district, in fact outside of the county, only one. I do know the Leader and I have had conversations about this, that we would prefer to keep everybody within tendering. However, there are circumstances, rare, but there are circumstances where it is better for those people to be placed outside of the district and remain, possibly due to the personal circumstances they're suffering from, potentially domestic abuse or something similar to that. So although we would prefer to keep everybody within tendering, there may be reasons why it's wiser in the short term to maybe move them out. As to your figures, I was unaware of those, to be perfectly honest. I will be speaking with officers afterwards. I do know that they do speak to colleagues elsewhere, and I do remember yourself being quite vocal in previous years about London councils sending their homeless, etc., to reside here, and you were quite forceful. I'm unaware that we have any from London, but the conversations are being had by officers with our neighbouring councils, and also they should tell us as well. I think, as far as I'm aware, there's legislation that says they should inform us if they are placing people outside into a different area, as we would do with them. So I hope that answers your question in some way.
Thank you, Councillor Baker. I'm going to go to Mr. Davison.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to say that whilst this is not a budget-related question, but I'm picking up on the back of it. In terms of the service, one of my roles, which is for Essex-wide, has been about the negotiation with London Council, the London Councils Association. I've been leading on that with officers from Essex County Council, which has resulted in a memorandum of understanding with London Councils, because the issue is that we cannot stop anybody placing people in our district from anywhere. However, there are certain protocols whereby, for certain reasons, they should notify us. and that is for things like in terms of there's quite a wide-ranging requirements for that, and we know that in tendering we even had a house which was named by the authority of that authority, and this was you'll remember it, Councillor Honeywood, it was a few years ago now, but and so that was part of the reason why that work started, and that protocol is in place. Is it perfect in terms of do they always notify us? No, but when we pick it up, then we go back to them. But there is also, it's not just about the housing needs, but it's also, as you alluded to earlier, it's also about the schools, it's about if there are support networks, if there are mental health issues, if there are other adult social care pressures and issues to be notified, and they're supposed to notify in order that those networks be put in place. So there is work going on, and actually we're doing a number of the lead. Our head of housing is Tim Clark, who also chairs the Essex Housing Officer Group, which also is coordinating work across Essex, and not just for tendering. And Tim is a great advocate for Essex and for tendering and the work he does about exactly as you say, trying to keep people as close to their support networks as possible.
Thanks, Councillor Henderson.
Yeah, and I've raised these issues as well, not only for people coming into the district, but the movement of families within the district, because it does have a massive impact on those families when they're being pulled out of their children are being pulled out of school, and you've got to arrange home to school transport if you can get that, and then sometimes those children lose their places within their existing schools because that homelessness lasts too long for them to actually still be in that school. There is one thing that I am really pleased with, which has been announced over the last week, and that's the issue about missing children. And that's one of the issues about families moving from one authority into another authority where those children are hidden and those families are hidden and they can't be tracked and registered. Now, I think the government now bringing in these new policies and stricter policies of registration when young children are taken out of school and elected home education is a really good move. We were calling on that over the past year for the government to bring in stronger statutory powers for local authorities to be able to monitor those children when they're moving about from authority to another authority. So that's another aspect that has always worried me. The Children's Commission has been really, campaigning on this for a long, long time. Thousands and thousands of children are moving around the country and not being monitored. So the sooner that part of legislation comes in and the sooner that authorities are given those tools to be able to do that job and monitor the children. I'm not saying all children who are home taught are in that category. I know there are some really good examples of home tuition, but there are some examples that we should be worried about safeguarding with children which are moving around from authority to authority without any traction.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. And I think I'll just add my comments to it. This Cabinet, through Councillor Baker, we're very, very conscious about what happens to families, not just the children. So it's not just about a small child, it's about mum, dad, siblings, and that. And one of the reasons why we pushed so hard to get Spendles done as quickly as we possibly could was because that is meant for families. It's not for single people on their own, that's for homeless families. And our commitment to that is to put dedicated staff in there to help those families who are probably in the worst moment of their life regain a right footing and help them move on and get into a better place. And that gives them that consistency and place to be. And we've got the staff there to support and help them. Is the system perfect across the country? No, but in tendering, I like to think we're doing as best we can. Councillor Honeywood, you got any other questions?
No, that's all, thanks. As I say, I've made my views clear before that, as we say, placing families away from their support networks and relatives does no one any favours, in my view. and when other councils place their residents here, that does put pressure on our services. It makes it harder for us to provide for our residents, but it also can have knock-on effects through no fault of the families that are now isolated. So I think it's something that, as a council, we should actively discourage whenever possible by other councils.
Thank you, Councillor Honeywood. Okay, so that was moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Scott. There are no other comments. Can I have an agreement on the budget? Thank you. All right. Item 12, Cabinet Member Items, Report of Economic Growth, Regeneration and Tourism Portfolio Holder, Councillor Henderson. Sorry, Gina. Yes, you did declare an interest. We'll come and get you. Promise. I said, we'll come and get you, I promise. Yes, report of the Economic Growth, Regeneration, Tourism Portfolio to Councillor Henderson. Community Regeneration Partnership, formerly the Levelling Up Partnership Programme Delivery. Councillor Henderson.
Thank you, Leader. And yes, today I'm pleased to present the report on the Community Regeneration Partnership, formerly known as the Levelling Up Partnership. In March 2023, Tendrum was selected as one of 20 places to receive funding for projects in Clacton-on-Sea and Jaywick Sands. Earlier this year, we hosted civil servants from the Ministry for Housing, Communities and Local Government for a comprehensive review, which included data analysis and meetings with key partners. The main objectives for this partnership are to improve the living offer, enhance community safety in Jaywick, and increase connections and access to jobs. The report recommends that Cabinet approves a suite of 15 projects selected for funding. These projects, chosen by ministers for investment, have been developed through collective effort and community engagement, including initiatives like improvements to Clacton Town Centre and Seafront Public Realm, improvements to Jaywick Sands Public Open Space, repurposing disused buildings on the seafront to create an arts and community micro venue, refurbishing and repurposing Martello Tower E. This is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to deliver transformative interventions across our district. These projects will significantly improve the quality of life, access to opportunities, and health and well-being for our residents. I move the report's recommendations on pages 124, 125 and 126.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. And do you have a seconder? Councillor Cox.
Thank you, Leader. And being a member of the Deputy Leader's Working Party looking at the Levelling Up Fund and Capital Regeneration projects, I'm pleased to second this report, which brings to life the exciting range of community regeneration projects which will see the investment of just under £20 million by the Ministry for Housing, Communities and Local Government in capital projects which will bring great benefit to Clacton and Jaywick. Projects from walking and cycling routes and improved bus infrastructure and community buses to healthy homes and improvement in healthcare. From shopfront improvements and town centre and seafront public realm enhancements to access to education and skills and arts and culture. This is a once-in-a-generation chance for Tendring, working with its partners in health, Essex County Council and with the local community to deliver 15 projects. Projects will have an impact on everybody who lives, works or comes to Clacton and Jaywick. As a portfolio holder for assets, I'm particularly pleased to see the £200,000 given to the Council to expand the work of the Jaywick Sands Healthy Homes Initiative to acquire derelict and long-term vacant sites. It's not often you get a chance to take part in schemes will not just make a visual difference to the area, but also improve the education and skills of residents, helping them access work, not just improve the health of residents, but also encourage them to lead healthier lives. I'd also like to thank the team of officers for their work in getting us to where we are now. No mean task, and we've come a long way in quite a short period of time. And I'm most pleased to support this report and wholly support the recommendations which begin at page 124. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. So, we moved by Councillor Henderson, seconded by Councillor Cox, going to comments and everything else. And I'll start. I'm like, £20 million, you know, that JWIC. It's all right. £20 million for JWIC and Clacton, and what, you know, these projects are fantastic, is the word I would use. It's one of those things where you can see there's something for everybody. You know, it's not just gone down one road or this road and we've focused on one piece. We see the climate change, we see the public realm and the shop fronts of the town. So for me, there's a huge amount of stuff going on there. It all looks great and deliverable. We seem to have the capacity in place. We've got the money. I'm keen to see where this leads. So those are my comments. Anybody else got anything?
My only comment, and I made a
Councillor
note.
Honeywood.
Sorry, my only comment, I made a note at the bottom when I looked at the list on page 119, is it's my understanding we're looking to deliver by March 26.
Councillor Henderson.
No, and by the way, this is a good example today. I like this this soundbite. We're delivering waves today, and 4 lots of waves in different groups. But no, that March 26 refers to when the money or the time was up and should be spent. But as you, I don't know if the Working Party, we've explained it to the Working Party and others, that the benefit of this is we have already got the money, and we don't see for any reason why the government would take any of that money back. And that's why we're working with these agreements, which we should have in place with our partners, being Essex County Council or the NHS. We should have them agreements are being developed now and should be in place by the first quarter of 25-26 financial year. So that will, once we sign up to those agreements, it will be money spent. So lots of these projects we're already within our milestones. We know when the dates are for completion, which is on page 135. That's our target. And as you know, Councillor Honeywood, we've now put in place a really good project development team, and they've now got a head of that team working on things. So we've got the extra capacity, which has now come into the council to support our officers who are already doing a fantastic job, but are very, very much under pressure to actually deliver these contracts. So to answer your question, we've got no concerns about the funding being withdrawn. We know we've got dates and targets. We've got a really good project team. We hope to deliver everything on time and within budget.
Thanks very much for that. Appreciate it.
Could I just add one thing? I was on this issue and specifically around the JWIC, the really good news for JWIC, and I know others are going to come in for it, because you'll see from this report, this crosses over into other portfolio holders' responsibilities. But I was on a radio interview yesterday, and there was some concerns being raised by residents in JWIC that this administration, this new administration, had withdrawn funding which could have gone towards new housing within investment in housing in JWIC. Hopefully I'll try and arrange to meet some of those residents next year, but if anyone's got any evidence where funds have been withdrawn by this administration on possible future investment on housing within JWIC, please provide that evidence, because that is not the case. The money that we're spending today is money that is part of funding which has been brought down from government, and every bit of that funding we are going to make sure there are not only improvements in health and well-being, improvements in boosting our tourism, improvements in boosting our growth and economy, where we're dealing with and supporting skills within the new skills hub, producing connectivity with new buses, services and lots of other, and including on top of that the cultural master plan, which the chief executive doesn't like that word, but the culture master plan will be looked at, which is being funded, so we can look at how these cultural sites all around the area come together and how we can improve and enhance that culture offer is around our town centre. But I think this is really good news, but I think we should put to bed some of those false suggestions that we have withdrawn funding or moved funding from housing for Jaywick. That would never be the case, and it certainly isn't the case. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. Councillor Baker.
Need to put that on, don't I? People can't hear me. Thank you, Leader. I'm delighted to see this update. We knew we had the money. Let's get on with it, in my view. But what I'm particularly pleased to see is that there's money within it, nearly 20%, to undertake some of the works outlined in the Jaywick Sands Place Plan, which is Cabinet agreed to adopt on the 20th of September. And as I said then, having that place plan in place will, for the first time, enable this council and its partners to explore different avenues for funding and delivery. It will enable this council to have serious discussions with government and others based on tangible, properly costed and public supported proposals. And as I've just said, it's resulted in not just a total of 20 million, but just under £5 million being allocated towards Jaywick Sands, which I hope will reassure those within that community, as Councillor Henderson has just said, who have stated that the place plan is pie in the sky, nothing will come of it, that it's become a pipe dream with no real prospect of becoming a reality. Well, the funding is there. I believe this is only the start of what the Jaywick Sands Place Plan states is possible, so it is a reality. And finally, I'm glad that Councillor Cox mentioned about the bit that comes under him, the assets. Just like to say that the funding will assist the absolutely excellent work being done by our Healthy Homes team in Jaywick in tackling long-term vacant or dangerous dwellings that blight the area. And just to reiterate, we haven't made any arrangements or agreements to withdraw funding for housing in Jaywick. If we had lots of money, and you know, if anybody's going to give us some more, even better, then we can then progress even further in Jaywick. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Baker. Councillor Barry.
Thank you, Leader. I'll just join with colleagues in endorsing and welcoming this report, and it does, as has been pointed out, cross a lot of portfolios, including my own. I particularly welcome the funding for the All Wales Park inclusive cycling facility in Clacton, and there are plans to improve connectivity within the town, improve walking and cycling routes, which is again all part of our strategic approach to improving the overall quality of life. So this funding from the government, as has been pointed out, is a once in a generation opportunity, and it's through partnership working yet again from this council and with the county council. There is a clear plan here to deliver a lot of these improvements. And I'm really pleased as well that the funding has been guaranteed. There was some speculation with the change of government that it might not be forthcoming, but obviously it has now been committed, and as a council we are committed again to delivering the plan as outlined, and so I'd fully endorse that.
Thank you, Councillor Barry. Any other comments? Okay, it's been moved by Councillor Henderson, seconded by Councillor Cox. Are we happy to move the recommendation? I agree. Thank you very much. Agenda item number 30. Thank you. Do you know what? I even had it written here. We'll just get Councillor Placey back. I didn't nearly forget. I did. And I was reminded by Councillor Scott. Welcome back, Councillor Placey. Right, let's get on with agenda item number 13. This is another Cabinet Members item, report of the Economic Growth, Regeneration and Tourism Portfolio Holder, Councillor Henderson again. The Levelling Up Fund and Capital Regeneration Project, progressing the projects to production of tender information. Councillor Henderson.
Thank you again, Leader. I am very pleased to present the progress made to date on our key projects. Carnarvon Terrace, which has received 19,960,000 from the Levelling Up Fund. Homes for Dovercourt, which has been allocated 6.6 million from the Capital Regeneration Fund. Planning applications for both schemes have been lodged, and with project development coming in under budget, we are now requesting to expand the scope of the budget to include the process up to procuring a main contractor. I would like to acknowledge the hard work of our partner, Essex County Council, who are leading the redevelopment of Clacton Library. The planning application has been lodged, and improvements to Kingsway and Harwich Library in Dovercourt Town Centre are progressing well. These programmes will deliver significant investment to our major towns, contributing to key pillars of our corporate priorities: pride in our area, raising aspirations and creating opportunities, and improving quality of life. We are also leading the way in sustainability and energy efficiency within the new homes and EV charging in the car park. We have held multiple events to engage and consult on the proposals, with our design teams working hard to capture and respond to all feedback received. These projects will realise the vision and ambitions developed over many years in close collaboration with residents in Clacton and Dovercourt, from the Love Clacton vision for a civic quarter to the Dovercourt revised master plan. I move the recommendations in the report on pages 161 and 162, subject to amending 5 in the recommendation. It should be subject to 4 above, and on number 6 it should be subject to 2 above rather than the lettering which is in there. That's the amendments. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson, and I will formally be your seconder on this. Once again, you know, this is a great project, and it's part of a bigger vision for Clacton, I think, as well, and Harwich. I think we've done some excellent work through the officers to keep us in to what is basically a very large project, and they've kept it on time and within budget, and I am more than happy to second and go forward with this. It's been proposed and seconded. Do we have any comments? No. So based on the recommendation changes by Councillor Henderson, where we will remove the emphasis on D in number 5 and put subject to 4, and then in 6 removing B and putting subject to 2, are we happy to move that forward? Agree. Thank you, everyone else. Councillor Bray, I believe you're going to leave the room for...
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I'll declare the interest for 14, 15 and 17. I have no questions for item 16, so it would seem fairly logical for me to, rather than keep coming in and out, just remove.
So
thanks, Eddie.
We won't come and get you then. You're basically saying you're going to leave the rest of the meeting. Thank you, Councillor Bray. Okay, item number 14, report of the Housing and Planning Portfolio Holder, consideration of revisions of the housing allocation policy and agreement to undertake consultation in connection with these revisions. And this one is yours, Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Chairman. Leader, this report presents a proposed revised housing allocations policy to Cabinet for approval for consultation being carried out with our current tenants, residents, other stakeholders. As we're all painfully aware, Tendring District is an area of acute housing shortage in the affordable renter sector, and the demand for housing far outstrips the supply of accommodation becoming available for letting. In each given year, it's normally only possible to assist approximately 10% of all applicants on the housing register with accommodation. The allocations policy is intended to reflect the Council's vision to put the needs of established Tendring residents first and to provide local housing for local people. The Council is also determined to ensure the creation of mixed and sustainable communities in the affordable rented housing sector and to provide realistic advice on housing options for those seeking accommodation. And by doing so, this policy will correspond with the themes within this Council's corporate plan, our vision, pride in our area and services to residents, working with partners to improve quality of life and raising aspirations and creating opportunities. The current housing allocation policy was adopted in June 2013, subsequently revised in December 2019, and there are quite a number of revisions included in the revised document, which are shown in Appendix A to this report. It takes into account the regulation of the social housing's revised consumer standards, which came into effect, as I've said, on many occasions in April 2024, and also revisions to statutory guidance, including case law. It is presented for Cabinet to approve it going out to consultation. I could say a lot more, Leader, but further detailed information is contained within the report itself, as well as the proposed revised policy at Appendix A. It is intended that, subject to Cabinet's approval today, the consultation will commence in early January, and dependent on responses to consultation, a decision to adopt the policy will be made by myself under the delegation requested today in March 2025. The objectives of the policy are shown on pages 191 to 192, and the recommendations are shown on 192. And I commend them to Cabinet and ask they be approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Baker. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Placey.
I'm happy to second, and I'm always happy to see policies brought up to date, and especially where it makes things better for our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Placey. So it's been moved and seconded. Do we have any comments? Councillor Honeywood.
I have a couple of questions. The first one I think is probably fairly straightforward. Our residency criteria currently stands at 3 years. Has there been any thought of extending that to, say, 5 years, as other councils have done?
Councillor Baker.
Short answer, yes. I'd have to take that away and come back to you as to where we are with that. So I'm not sure if that comes under this policy or within the housing strategy. Can you leave that with me and I'll come back to you if I may.
Okay, thanks very much for that. The second one is an item, and it may be something that an officer answers, because I've read it a couple of times and I don't get it. It may just be me. And that's at the bottom of page 199. And I'll read it out to save people rushing through it or flicking through. It says applications from those accepted for a homeless prevention or relief duty and who do not meet the 3-year residency criteria are to be placed in one band lower than the band they would have been placed in if they had met the 3-year residency criteria. Could I ask for an example of someone who would fit that? Because I struggled a bit with it. As I say, it may just be me.
I'll go to Assistant Director, Mr. Clark.
Thank you, Councillor Hollywood. I think it's probably easier if we provide you with an example outside of the meeting rather than getting to the technical detail in this session here, if you're happy with that.
Okay, it wasn't the answer I hoped for, because obviously this is a public document. But I'm happy to accept that.
Thank you. Any other questions, Councillor Honeywood? Okay. It's been moved by Councillor Baker, seconded by Councillor Placey. I will agree to that. Thank you very much. So the next item is item 15. Once again, report the housing portfolio, planning portfolio, Councillor Baker. Consideration and adoption of housing policies on gas safety, electric safety, fencing and paving, and empty council homes management. You got a few there, Councillor. Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Leader. So pleased to announce the introduction of 4 further housing policies for adoption by this Cabinet, hopefully. These being, as you mentioned, gas safety, electrical safety, fencing and paving policy, and an empty council homes management policy. These 4 new policies relate to the maintenance and operation of the council's retained housing stock, as well as ensuring this council, as I've said on many occasions, complies with the Regulator for Social Housing's consumer standards and tenant satisfaction measures, which are now required. Although it's not mandatory to have these policies in place, as Cabinet is well aware, there are now the legal and statutory standards for performance, which these policies aspire to formalise that compliance. They also contribute to 5 of the 6 themes within this council's corporate plan, our vision: pride in our area, I won't read them all out, but raising aspirations, championing our environment, working with partners, and for financial sustainability and openness. The 4 policies will also inform our tenants how this council intends to approach its responsibilities in complying with the relevant legislation and associated guidance on installation, inspection, repairs, testing and certification, and ensuring in regard to gas and electrical matters they're all properly managed and operate safely. The fencing and pavement policy outlines this council's aim to ensure that its properties have an appropriate standard of security and appearance through the provision of effective maintenance replacement. The empty council homes management policy ensures that there are procedures in place to reduce the length of time of any of this council's properties remain empty between tenancies. It also shows what standards should be achieved in the appendix of that particular policy. The recommendations are shown on page 244, and I commend them to Cabinet and ask they be approved. But just for information, Leader, this now takes the total of policies in relation to housing and homelessness, having either been revised or adopted by this Cabinet since May 23, to over 20. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all the officers within the Housing Directorate for their hard work ensuring that so many have come before us in a timely manner in what can be considered a relatively short period of time, on top of what they do day to day. I also know they are still working on a number of further policies and strategies which will be coming before us in the coming months. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Baker. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Placey.
Again, and yeah, here on that, thanks to the work that the officers do. I'm happy to second this, and I'm pleased to see, although it's not mandatory, that we've actually got these policies in place. And as you know, housing, the condition of housing is one of the wider determinants of health, which is very dear to my heart. So anything that makes our tenants feel safer and secure in their homes is welcome. So thank you. I'll second it.
Thank you, Councillor Placey. Councillor Baker, it looks like you're reading my comments, because I was sitting there thinking there's not been a single Cabinet where you haven't introduced some sort of housing policy. And I was going to say, could you pass on from Cabinet our thanks to officers for the huge amount of work they've done in putting together the now over 20 housing policies. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Do we have any comments?
The only comment I have is we're talking about obviously things like gas and electrical safety, and I made just a note to here saying, how are we ensuring that they are being kept to? So we've got these policies in.
Councillor Baker.
So under the regulator, the consumer standards that the regulator set down, we have to report on various tenant satisfaction measures and to make sure that we comply with those standards. In regard to gas and electrical safety, I can confidently say that we are at or very close to 100% of having them all done. So every single property that needs one done has been done, and we report on that. If you compare our results to other councils, we are way ahead. So I'm quite confident, and this just basically reaffirms what officers are already doing, and the regulator sort of says, have you got a policy for that? We do now, if we didn't before, or they were out of date. The gas and electrical were I think over 12 years since they've been looked at. So these are new, bringing us up to date with the regulator standards. So I hope that gives you some confidence that we are doing what we need to do. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much for that.
Thank you, Councillor Baker and Councillor Honeywood. Any other comments? No? Councillor Honeywood, you still got your mic on. Right, it's been moved by Councillor Baker, seconded by Councillor Placey. Are we all in agreement? Thank you very much. Okay, bit of role reversal now. So this one's the joint report of housing, report of the partnership portfolio holder for community projects update. So we're going to go to Councillor Placey.
Thank you, Leader. This community projects update and the supporting e-brochure aims to highlight a range of exciting community projects that have been undertaken in the past year or are currently being delivered. And it's only right that I should take this opportunity to acknowledge that some of these were started under my predecessor, Councillor McWilliams, and I'm happy that we've been able to carry on with the work. Much of this work has or is being delivered in partnership, which demonstrates the Council's commitment to its community leadership role. As you will see from the e-brochure, there are a broad range of projects across themes of health and wellbeing, community safety, economic growth, the Tendring Cultural Education Partnership, and education. For each theme, the e-brochure also highlights aspirations for the future, which maintains a focus on prevention, early intervention, and improving the wider determinants of health. The brochure has been a joint effort across the Council alongside partners for the benefit of our residents. So let me pick out a few highlights. There's the continuing development of Essex Pedal Power. The scheme provides free access to residents aiming to increase cycling, active travel and physical activity levels. Across Clacton, Jaywick and Harwich and Dovercourt, over 2,259 bikes have now been given away. Then there's the Active Outdoor Gym, which is now open at Holland-on-Sea, which aims to support residents in improving strength and balance, as well as the prevention of falls and supporting rehabilitation. And I'd recommend everybody to go and have a try. Then the Tendring Steels Partnership, that supported two very successful cruise events at the Town Hall. Working with the health partners and ECC, 16 primary schools participated with workshops and interactive stalls on offer for Year 6 children. Activities were themed around science, technology, engineering, arts and maths, generally known as STEAM now, and 20 local organisations supported the event. Lastly, Create Day, Tendring, was a Royal Opera House East project supported by the Tendring Local Cultural Education Partnership, MAFL, which saw over 400 pupils participate in a live event at the Princess Theatre, with 8 schools involved and 7 performers. I believe we all agree that this brochure highlights the outstanding work happening in the district to support residents, with the Council working as a community leader with partners to make a difference. And I also would like to take the opportunity here to thank all the officers involved in the hard work making these projects the success that they are. I move the recommendations that's on page 26. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Placey. Do you have a seconder? Councillor
My turn to second something, believe it or not. I'm very glad and pleased to be able to second this report. I note that the last update presented to Cabinet was provided 2 years ago in October 2022. As Councillor Placey says within the report, this Council's corporate plan, Our Vision, places a strong emphasis on working positively with partners to improve quality of life, as well as raising aspirations and creating opportunities for adults, children and young people across the district. And when I actually read the report, and I did twice, I was astounded at how much actually goes on within the partnerships portfolio. I think sometimes we don't realise actually what goes on. And I'm delighted to see the positivity in the outcomes in all areas. And as Councillor Placey's mentioned a bit, the e-brochure, I would encourage those that haven't, read it. The amount of work done by our officers, partners, to ensure that there is an improvement in quality of life for our residents, whether through community safety, health or education, is absolutely amazing. Just pick out one of the really, really amazing statistics within this report are the outcomes shown on page 286, wellbeing hubs in primary schools. 76% reduction in referrals to mental health provision, 69% improved attendance, and 72% shown improved learning behaviours. Excellent for those young people that has happened for them. And that's just one example. Just one example. There are many more outlined within the report. And Councillor Placey's mentioned it, Leader, but I think that we as Cabinet should applaud the work done and continuing to be done, both by our officers together with our partners, and record our grateful thanks for all those who are making a difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Baker. It's been moved by Councillor Placey, seconded by Councillor Baker. Going to comments, and I'll start. I must admit, you know, I like to think I know everything, but hey, don't know everything because there's a lot in here that I didn't know, and I'll take it. It brings together the whole vastness of the variety of things that we do for and on behalf of residents in just one section of the council. And I mean, that is just one section, but it's a huge part of what we do, the community outreach and everything else. And it was interesting. Yeah, I spoke to a leader not recently, and he said, residents only care if you empty the bins. And I had to push back and said, it's far more than that. And this document will now be printed and put in my bag. I said, so next time I see him, I can show him what more you can do for residents, because if he thinks that only emptying bins is the thing that residents care about, well, he's got a lot to answer for. Those are my comments. Anybody got any other comments? Councillor Henderson.
I think, again, I associate myself with all those comments, but I think what this does prove to us all in this council is what a great relationship we've got with all our partners and organisations. I mean, when you look at, I went to that event, which was done by the Royal Opera House here when those children were in that Princess Theatre enjoying themselves, and another one in Harwich where they were doing a conference for children on creativity and arts and everything else. So I just think this embeds into this council that really good relationship, and that's why we're doing, I believe as a district, we're doing so well, because we can show that we can make a difference. Thank you.
And I think you're right, you know, it does show, you know, right on the board behind us, it says community leadership right in the background, and that brings out things like localism and partnerships, like you said. We said it right at the beginning, delivery. It comes from that confidence of actually doing what we say we're going to do. And there's so many good things that are on here that we, you know, we have councils coming to look at our mental health hubs that Councillor Baker brought up, you know, because they want to see the good practice that's being, and it's good for us to share. And it's really one of those things I'm most proud about. You know, when I talk to outside bodies, they have already got a good impression of us, you know. So from our arts and culture to our sports to our health and well-being, it's across the board that we as a council send this message out, and it is well received and well approved. Done the comments, unless there's any other comments. It's been moved by Councillor Placey, seconded by Councillor Baker. Are we in agreement? Agreed. Thank you very much. An ultimate item. This is joint report of housing and planning portfolio holder and the corporate finance and governance portfolio holder, updated housing revenue account business plan and budget proposals. So I've captured my thoughts on this as I normally do. So similarly to the general fund, the HRA business plan has effectively been frozen, with the position for 25-26 translated into the detailed budget for the upcoming year. Although we have some challenges ahead, we could see the current position as relatively positive, as we are able to continue to effectively manage and maintain the homes of our tenants. However, as we have discussed previously, it is getting more challenging given the pressure we face from the regulator and the increasing cost of maintaining our stock to the condition our tenants expect and deserve. In terms of the last point I just made, we are proposing significant increases in the money we set aside to meet a range of emerging challenges, but not least the general underlying increases in the prices we have to pay for materials and associated services. As set out in the report, we could simply take an arbitrary approach and reduce the investment in tenants' homes. However, we are not choosing to do this, but instead we are looking to use HRA reserves in the short term to give us the time during 25-26 to work collaboratively with our tenants to identify how we can continue to balance the money they pay us in rent with the investment required in their homes. By working together, we should hopefully be able to achieve such a balance to ensure that the HRA remains financially sustainable long into the future. Every year of the business plan is therefore important, with 25-26 effectively resetting a number of budget lines as part of the required steps to achieve this. It is also worth highlighting that the government will be reviewing the rent setting policy from 26-27, and we will need to keep a careful eye on what this could mean for us looking ahead. As we have discussed before, most things in life involve trade-offs, and I hope that the framework that develops will enable such an approach to continue to help us remain a decent landlord to our 3,000 plus tenants. It will always be important to maximise our opportunities emerging from the recent changes to right to buy and any associated capital receipts. I look forward to the comments of both the Resource and Service Overview and Scrutiny Committee and our tenants panel following their respective meetings to consider the budget proposal for 25-26. I so move it, and I do need a seconder.
Happy to second, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Baker. And I'm going to go to comments. No comment? Okay. It's been moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Baker. Are we happy to agree? We agree. Last item, management items.
We have none.
They have none? All that work? In that case, all it leaves me to say, what a positive meeting. There was a huge amount of great work going on there, done by all our officers, and I think across the council. On behalf of Cabinet, I would like them to thank for their continued hard work and support.